you were reported to the BACB due to a reel that you put out on Instagram.
Yes.
Okay.
And I was reported, I primarily think, because of the caption.
I don't even know what that process looks like.
Me neither. I thought it was a scam.
Yeah.
I said, who in the world?
Welcome back, everybody, to the Gold Standard Podcast. Today, we are rejoined by Quintara Tucker, BCBA, badass, licensed in too many states to even count, and we are so thrilled to have her back. We had her on a few months ago, and...
Like a year ago, actually.
Oh, wow.
According to Time Hop, it was over a year ago.
It was a year and a half.
So a year ago.
Yeah,
Now we want to catch up. So much has happened, and we want to see where she is. So please tell us kind of what has happened since the last pod. What have you been working on? And what is left to do?
Too much is left to do. But thank you for that wonderful introduction every single time. Thank you for having me back.
Of course. Thank you for coming back.
I love you guys so much, and I'm so glad to be here. Since the last time I was on the podcast, I feel like a lot has changed. But I did recently rewatch it, and a lot has changed physically.
Yeah.
For me.
Full circle.
And I was like, whoa, is that me? So a lot has changed. I mean, on a personal note, I definitely have been more consistent with working out because, that's something, we all kind of share. Yeah. So after talking about that, I was so glad and definitely so motivated. So that is something that has changed. But also a year and a half ago, I guess the biggest thing is my dissertation now. Yeah. I'm doing my dissertation now. And a year and a half ago, we were just talking about how I was about to start it. Or finish the classes for it.
Yeah.
I think it's almost a feeling of comfort also. So coming back with you guys, again, very full circle because I feel the support system.
Yeah.
So, I feel like before we were just chatting about it. And the first thing you guys asked me when I came in before we started rolling, how's it going? How you feeling? What's your mental state? Dissertation? Good? Cool? Good to go?
Yeah.
Right? So I feel like there's so much support around me this time around that it has no choice but to go well.
Oh, yeah. 1,000%.
I would say, what's the level of response effort you would say to get to the point that you've gotten to working full time and doing everything that you're doing? To give people a realistic idea of what it is to get your doctorate in the field of ABA.
So it's hard. Response effort is definitely high. It is there. But I feel like with the response effort, clearly we have to do. As behavior analysts, I feel like we're always talking about behavior and what it is that we do. But what about the teachings and, the discipline that goes behind the doing? Yeah. It took a lot of sitting down with myself. It took a lot of self-reflection to kind of be like, okay, I'm doing this. This is what I need to do in order to get where I need to get, right? So definitely it was extremely hard. I was working full-time during the first 3 years of the program. I started my own business during my second year of the program. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Instagram, that's a job in and of itself. Social media, content creation, that's a job. I began teaching a year and a half ago also. I can't remember if I was teaching when I was here.
I don't think so.
Last. I must have had just started that. So I've been teaching now for almost 2 years. So there's always something going on in my brain. And just to give you an example of that, everyone always asks me, when I'm catching up with someone, hey, have you seen this show? Have you watched this? Yeah.
It's no, I don't watch TV.
No, I can't remember. The last time I watched a show was yesterday. I binge watched a show because I had the time to do it. And that's very, very rare. Mm-hmm. But it's something that I definitely find that I have to make some more time for because I enjoyed bed rotting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It was fun.
It's I like this.
I like this.
It's a reinforcer on its own.
Correct. So I'm definitely working for it. Exactly. Yeah. I got my token board. Yeah. And I'm definitely going to be working for binge watching Netflix.
So as far as shaping your brain for taking on all of the work for the PhD, what were some strategies that you personally used? because I can't imagine every day you woke up, you're like, oh, I got this. You were probably like, this kind of sucks.
So remember, I was laughing on the way here because remember the last episode we did, we were talking about making our beds.
Yes. Yes.
Like that was, and I said, Brandon is going to laugh because my bed
made
was
my bed
not,
today.
mine was not.
Okay.
My bed was not made today.
We swapped. We swapped.
So, just going back to those strategies, again, I feel like I took a lot of time for self-reflection.
Yeah.
That was something that I definitely needed to do. I needed to check in with myself regularly on a mental state, physical state, just more of on the academic level, like how am I feeling? Because something called imposter syndrome takes
Yes.
over so much. But I guess other strategies I really utilized were self-care. That was my biggest one. And I also found hobbies outside of work and outside of that academic life, because even though those are my life 100%, I needed something else to, ease the stress a little bit.
Yeah.
I will say I have seen you embrace health and wellness
Yes.
on like a whole nother level than the last time we touched base and
Yes.
talked. Like you found boxing, a love for boxing, I say, just in general, weight training.
Yes.
So I've seen you kind of go down different avenues to also help with like coping and just like stress in general.
Totally.
So
Yeah.
No,
I think that's amazing, by
Thank
the way.
you.
I do.
Thank
I
you.
love watching people find their footing in fitness or
Yeah.
just like some type of movement, because it just all of the natural occurring reinforcers that you get from it.
Yes.
I love just seeing people finally
Yes.
find them.
It's like a domino effect. And
Yeah, it
we
is.
know. Everybody at this table knows if I have a great workout, I have an even better sleep. Then I have an even better morning the next morning
Yeah.
because I got a great sleep, right? So I feel like that's what I was missing
Yeah.
the last time that I was here. I knew I had, my hands in all these different pots, and I knew I was wearing all these different hats, but it was like, okay, what am I doing for me?
Right.
What is going to benefit me in the long run, right? Being a BCBA, those are just 4 letters. What is going to benefit me in the long run? And like when that time comes, how are people going to remember me?
Yeah.
So,
And I think it's hard for people to get into because it does take a lot of work up front. All you see is that, you got to get up early
Yes,
or you
yeah.
got to cram something else in. And it sounds very stressful.
yeah.
But once you're able to kind of master your schedule, you start to see those
You
benefits.
start to see it.
Yeah.
And something I've done was I added to my calendar.
Yep,
Just
me
like
too.
a calendar invite y'all sent me to be here today.
Yeah.
Jim was up there at 10 a.m. this morning.
Yeah.
So whatever else I had to do at, from 7 to 9 got done. But I knew at 10 I had somewhere else to be.
Yeah.
So that has been very beneficial, to me too, to kind of prioritize health and wellness. So
And I feel like with the consistency piece,
Yeah.
if you make it something that you owe yourself to
Totally.
do, then it becomes more of a naturally occurring thing. I know for me, getting up in the morning was a little tougher.
yeah,
So I did my workouts at night.
yeah,
And when everyone was kind of like getting themselves ready for bed and, they were already asleep, I was
Yeah.
just finishing up my
Yeah.
workout. But I knew for me, I owed it to myself. I
Yeah.
had to get it done. So I got it done.
totally.
And it like that even though it was not the same that maybe someone else would be working out, it was still my consistency.
Yep.
And I think that also has its own value. That consistency doesn't always look the same to everybody.
Yep.
But consistency in yourself and showing up for yourself is kind of like what gets that successful end game.
Yeah, totally. Consistency is just showing up.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be the best workout,
Right.
right? You don't have to,
Yeah.
deadlift 160 pounds, but,
Yeah.
you showed up.
But you could do it.
You could.
Yeah.
But you
And
can
it's
do it.
also preference too, right? Like you had
Yeah.
said, like you're a night workout person,
Yeah.
you're a 10
Totally.
a.m. person. Like there are some people who love getting up in the morning. I'm not one of them, but sometimes that's the only time
That's
that
the only
you
time
can
you
go.
can, yeah.
Right. So it's really like finding your preferences, finding the movement that you
Yeah.
enjoy. Just because I like weight training doesn't mean everybody's going to like weight
Yep,
training.
yep.
Because you like boxing doesn't mean everybody's going to like boxing. It's really finding what you love.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it sustainable and
Yeah.
easier to be consistent.
Yeah.
Totally.
I don't know if it's my algorithm or like people are finally starting to get it, but I feel like this year is the first year that I haven't seen people like I'm gonna go all in for 6 weeks and then
Yeah.
I'm gonna fall off.
Yes.
Like I'm starting to see people that are just like more consistent
Yeah.
and mindful of what they're doing
Yes.
rather than like 100% or nothing.
And it's funny that you say that because I thought it was my algorithm too. I'm like, oh my goodness, everybody's working out now.
Yeah.
But it's true. Everyone is working out now. And I honestly think we have something to do with that.
Yeah.
I do. Because, right, what other BCBAs do you guys know that were posting this journey of themselves? before we started to do it. I think making it visible to people and showing people that this is possible. You can be a person outside of being a BCBA. You can be health conscious. You can show up for these kids and these clients, right? But when are you showing up for yourself?
Yeah.
And I am very happy that our content has been taken in that direction, because I see a lot more people sharing that content. A lot of BCBAs on my timeline are now sharing that content about themselves, that side of themselves. They thought, oh, this is an ABA page. I can't work out on this page.
Yeah.
Right? Now I'm seeing the opposite. So love that. I absolutely do.
But I also I think it's taking on pieces that are more vulnerable to share. So like working out to somebody who maybe is newer to it or just is not as consistent. It's terrifying.
Oh, 100%.
To then post it somewhere and
look at yourself.
And then, you could look at someone else's page and be like, I'm not quite there.
Yeah.
So it's really vulnerable. But I also want to congratulate the people that consistently post about hobbies and consistently post about like kind of getting away. So like there's the health and wellness. And then I think that there's just like the acceptance of here's the other states of mind that I could be in. So it's not always just so ABA focused, even though, during those times, I'm sure we're all thinking about ABA or dissertation or something else. But like acknowledging that there is more than just those couple things in our cup that we have to fill up for ourselves. So for me, like, playing video games with friends, that was something in the last year I completely lacked. And I recently fell back in love with it, and I was like, damn, why'd
you stop?
Why did I stop? Why did I ever let this feeling get away? Because it wasn't just about, like losing myself to a video game. It was like the connection of like being with people and being in the same minded space and
The camaraderie.
The camaraderie.
Yeah.
So a lot of that stuff, and if video games isn't your thing, that's totally okay. But just finding something that makes you feel
Zen,
but also just like a little bit removed from the day-to-day grind, because as we all know, whether it's the gym or work or a dissertation, it's going to beat you down without something else to kind of like hold you afloat.
Yeah.
So that's something I've noticed a little bit more on just like a lot of my feeds is just people being more vulnerable about sharing something more insightful or like, I like nerdy shit. Like, let me just share that a little bit too. So
I feel like it's the pendulum is starting to shift too, where it was like, even like during COVID and like the years after that, everyone was so tapped into work 24/7. And I feel like we're finally starting to reset boundaries and say, okay, like, no, my work is done. I'm going to go do this thing. And that's it.
And that's
like
it.
My day is over.
Email
or
you
my
tomorrow.
work.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I agree.
yeah.
With that being said, I'm very curious. With all of that stuff on your plate, what made you want to go teach? Like I've been like trying to rack my brain on why you would add one more thing to your plate. So there must be a very good reason.
There is a absolutely very good reason. That is what I want to do.
Okay.
I want to be a full-time professor one day.
I know you said leaving the district space was definitely something that, like, that's not a forever goal for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love it. Love the kids. Love consultation. But my goal is to really teach up-and-coming BCBAs and definitely up-and-coming BCBADs. So
I love that. You're like paying it forward.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for those who might not have seen Quintara like in the wild,
Wow.
when I run into you at like conferences or I'll use NJABA for example, you're a completely different like beast out there where and in a really positive light. Like I see you and you're organized, you're put together, every single conference and every single talk in
Are
the
you saying
Times.
she's not organized and put together when you see her outside of a conference?
I'm
But
seeing
just
where
like
this is gonna end
in the
up.
realm of teaching and being a leader, I feel like you already kind of have that down.
Yeah.
So the teaching aspect, I think it's just a natural path for you.
Yeah.
But like seeing you already do some of it, I'm just like, it's a no-brainer. Like I feel like it's one of those things where like you have all the tools, now you just need the paper to say, I did it.
Exactly.
But yeah,
That's so kind. Thank you so much.
of course.
You brought up a good point, too, about NJABA. I know you've been heavily involved with them. And you
Yes.
even had Brianna and I come speak over,
Yeah.
and Brandon, over the summer.
Yeah.
So how did you get involved with them? And what are you doing now with them?
So I'm on the board for the New Jersey Association for Behavior Analysis. I am the events co-chair.
Okay.
So I
Very fitting.
plan I plan the conference
Yeah.
with the wonderful Marlene Brown. She is my absolute mentor. And we also plan other events that are occurring throughout the year that aren't the conference. So that thing that you guys spoke at is also another event that I'm responsible for kind of planning and putting together. I got involved because I attended for the first time a couple years ago, and they had applications for the board seats. And I was like, oh, I'm just going to apply.
It sounds like something you would do. Yeah, I'm just going to do
I
it.
literally was in a talk applying to the position.
Yeah.
And I got word, like maybe like a week later, that it was accepted and they wanted to meet with me. And here I am.
Cool.
Yeah. You're like, let me stack that on top of the rest of my responsibilities.
Yes, things just kind of, oddly enough, like fall into my lap.
Yeah.
And I don't know how really to explain that, but I am a person that I do not believe in coincidences.
Yeah.
So sometimes I have to use very, very big discernment when I'm either accepting or denying certain things, because I'm always a believer that, oh, this is for a reason. This is sent to me for a reason. But I do have to reassess my plate a lot
Yeah.
to make sure that, that I'm being effective and efficient. I typically look at my plate how I would do my real plate.
Yeah.
Like protein. What's the protein? That dissertation, that's the protein.
Yeah. That is.
To be honest.
Yeah.
That gets you to the overall goal, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. That dissertation, and then I got my veggies and a little bit of carbs, not too much because I'm not a carb person anyway, but I love me some potatoes. So the potatoes is the fun stuff, the conferences, the board seats, the this, the that. So if it becomes too much or if I cannot eat it all, I put it away. I save it for later.
Yeah.
And sometimes it spoils because you shouldn't keep leftovers for more than 4 days.
Yeah.
But, sometimes it's there.
Yeah.
And I'm ready to eat it. So
As an event coordinator, do you find that it is somewhat like an enjoyable task? Because for me, like when I have to plan an event, somehow it's therapeutic throughout all the chaos.
Really?
Like even when I have to like plan a vacation or like just like putting together an itinerary for something, like I don't know if it's just being on Canva and like putting together something that's visually appealing.
Yeah.
But it does fill my bucket. It can be chaotic, but at the same time, it fills the bucket.
I feel like they should like frame your Canva for like all the itineraries that you probably put together.
you would have them all.
Yeah.
It's just so fun
Just
to
like a
be
time hop of
organized.
itineraries.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's what it is. It's very fun to be organized. So they task me with the Excel, with the spreadsheets, the tables, right? The nice itineraries. And I love it because we're able, between the two of us, we're able to split it up. And we also have help from, like a support group, like a managerial group. So they help in major ways too, making those phone calls, solidifying venues and things of that nature.
Okay.
Between Marlene and I handle the high techie stuff, and she handles the nice emails that go out to the lovely individuals because for whatever reason, I'm not a really good emailer.
Okay.
This is what I need from you. This is when I need it by. Thank you. Right? She adds all the nice little fluff, right? So we're able to split the tasks up where it's still enjoyable for me because I'm able to do the tasks that are enjoyable for me.
Yeah.
The actual conference itself, when you see it come to light.
Oh, yeah.
And when I see you guys there,
That's
5
where the
a.m.
reinforcement comes in.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct. Setting up the table with the robot. I'm like, yes. The day is here.
Yep.
We did it. We just got to make it to 4:00.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of the, I was going to say the conference changed dates this year.
Oh yeah.
I'm glad you
yeah.
guys were able to keep it at the same venue. We love
Correct.
that
So,
venue.
and yes, that's what it was. It was the venue. The venue's being renovated. Very, very good renovations are being made. So we originally had end of April dates when the renovations were supposed to be finished. They got back to us and said, hey, things happen. It's not, it's not going to be finished,
Right.
but we have these June dates for you. So we had to choose between changing the dates, right? Or changing the venue. And I was down for whatever because it was going to work either way, in my opinion. But, you really have to think about the commitment that a lot of our attendees and members have to the conference. And I was like, you know what? If we're already changing the dates, it's probably better that we keep the venue the same.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
much like our kiddos that we work with. If
Yeah.
I could keep one thing constant in this crazy life of yours, I'm going to keep your classroom the same, or I'm going to keep your teacher or your aide the same, right?
Yeah.
So that's how I looked at it. So we decided to change the dates. The board overall, we voted on it, but same venue.
Yeah. Cool. I can't say
Awesome.
I'm mad about it. It's going to be warmer while we're there, so you can enjoy
Yeah.
the outdoor
No
space.
rain, hopefully.
Yeah.
Right? No April showers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still got a
The
great
outdoor
lunch.
space. Oh, the food is wonderful. I'll be first
The
in
best
line.
part.
Yeah, that's what I'm
First
saying.
in line.
Yeah.
I love it. I love all the options that we have. Like, I absolutely love working with that venue. So I'm glad we were able
It's
to keep
definitely
it.
the prettiest conference. I
Yeah.
will say
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
You get a
We
little
can
lost.
pride ourselves. Lost in the venue, or
Oh,
just,
yeah.
just how wait till you see the renovations.
That's why I'm
the
saying,
chandelier. The chandelier alone is
Yeah.
going to take you away.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was going to say the Palace is a pretty nice wedding venue to
it's
begin
a
with.
wonderful
so.
wedding venue. I when we inquired about the conference and the conference package, I was like, oh, how do weddings look here?
Yeah.
And she went on to tell me the price, and I said, oh, okay,
Yeah.
Yeah.
sounds great.
Yeah. Right. New Jersey weddings are
Awesome.
expensive.
I would
Sounds-
love to
sounds
attend
great.
Yeah.
somebody else's.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Right, yeah,
Do you
yeah.
know anyone who's having one soon?
Correct.
So now with a plate as heavy as yours, and I feel like we're similar in the way that oftentimes we can give others amazing advice, but it might take us a few stabs to give it back to ourselves.
Yeah.
So for someone else who might be carrying a heavier plate, what advice would you give them?
Eat with your stomach, not with your eyes.
Mm.
Oh,
Damn.
Yeah.
That was
She
a
was like,
personal
Yeah.
attack. So you're saying no
like
ice
literally,
cream.
again, we're looking at it as if we're
Yep.
looking at our plate.
Yeah.
Right? What do I need to nourish my body after this workout right now? What do I need to nourish my body for the rest of the day before I can have another meal? That's something I asked myself today. We're shooting, or it's afternoon, 4-ish, right? Now it's 5. I typically eat around 5:30, right? So I was like, okay, I need a more sustainable lunch, right? So I think we sometimes have to make adjustments and modifications, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to scoot some things off to the side of the plate, right? It's okay to focus and make sure that we're getting our protein, like we kind of talked about.
Yeah.
But I feel like sometimes we are so drawn to the fact that we have so much going on, and there's so many different areas and so many different avenues. If you just focus on one thing at a time, I think that's helpful. It's better for your stomach, right? I've been seeing a dietitian also. One thing she really recommended for me was to sit down and eat. She said, take
Don't
30
stand.
minutes.
Yeah.
Don't stand in the back of the
Don't
cafeteria.
stand in the back of the
Don't
cafeteria.
stand in the back of a
Yeah.
classroom, you mean?
Don't eat while you're driving.
Don't eat
Yeah.
while you're driving.
On the way to a crisis call?
Yeah.
Correct. It's like
This
in the
is
middle. Hold
news
on,
to
I
me.
gotta step out. Yes. No, but she was saying like take 30 minutes to really eat.
Mm-hmm.
Take your time and
That's
really
the
eat.
hardest part.
It's the
Yeah.
hardest part. Like I find that we're eating so fast, and we're not really living in the moment. So I think there's a lot of different visuals and a lot of different metaphors with this with this plate and with this question. But to overall answer, just take your time and separate your food. I'm not one that I like my food to touch. So take it
That's fair.
thing by thing, step by step. And I think if, again, you eat with your stomach and not with your eyes, everything else falls into place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I love that answer. To add to it, I think just for clinicians in the field, I think we also put such a heavy emphasis on the job. Like when we're out in the field, it's like we have to be perfect. Televisibility. How does it look to someone watching us? Like,
Yes.
do our hands look okay? Does our body look non-defensive? Are we, walking with no food or drink in the hallway? Like a lot of that stuff is just it's a lot of hard things for us to really comply with. But at the end of the day, we're human.
Yeah,
So
totally.
remembering we all do have to eat. We all have to fill up our waters. We all have to take 10 minutes to just be like, all
Totally.
right, give me a
Just
second
give me a
here.
minute.
Give me a second here.
I need some space.
And I feel like there's such a heavy emphasis on clinicians in the field who just they feel like you step foot in the school and there is no time.
Yeah.
Like you have to go. You're here. You're getting paid. There's expectations.
Yep.
Everyone's looking for you. When in all reality, even if you were to go to one of those classrooms or one of those teachers and say, hey, I'm going to take lunch for about 20, 30 minutes. You got this? Chances are they're going to be like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah, what are you talking? Like, yes, you deserve a lunch.
Yes, yes.
Please.
Yeah.
So I guess for all those clinicians, like, take it easy on yourself too.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there's grace that you're allowed to have
Yes.
that you might not know is there.
Yep. Just like we give it to our kids.
Yeah.
We give it grace to our kids. So I think we owe it to ourselves as well.
Yeah.
I'm better at giving advice than taking it. You know what I mean? That just, I think, is the name
Yeah.
of the game here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So kind of jumping around a little bit. So dissertation, you're teaching, you're kicking ass in the gym.
Thanks.
Kind of looking back at like the last year, what are some things that you either just don't practice the same or look at differently about like how you conduct yourself as a BCBA?
Oh, as a BCBA, that's a good question.
Try.
That's a very good question. So, I mean, I you guys know because of social media, and we talked about it briefly.
Wait,
when
you're
I
on
came
social
in.
media? 10K followers recently. Just
Yes, yes. So stoked about that. I'm sure we'll get into that too.
yes.
But to answer your question, when I'm in the gym, and my trainer, I love him to death, but he laughs at me all the time because I think I could personally lift the whole entire gym. When I'm in the gym and I have his support right then and there, watch out, world, because I'm the Hulk. I could do anything right here, right now. I feel like I translate that and I take that outside of the gym and into my work. I feel like confidence is something that was definitely built in that gym for me. I'm more vulnerable on social media because of it, right? I'm more vulnerable as a clinician because of it. I'm able to say, yeah, I messed up, my bad. How do we fix this?
Yeah.
Again, that self-reflection. So I guess I don't know. I really feel like I'm able to take a lot that I've learned in the gym and really just do and use in practice.
Just more ownership, more confidence, more lessons.
Yeah, I could do hard things.
Yeah.
It's something that I always tell
Yeah,
myself.
yeah.
Like I'm in a situation with a client. I could do hard things. I could do hard things.
It gives a different perspective. Like when you have a challenge in the gym, and it's like earlier on in the day, you've accomplished something very difficult.
Yes.
So when other things or obstacles are thrown your way throughout the day, you have perspective. I've already accomplished something
Correct.
Yeah.
extremely difficult.
Correct.
I pushed through the last rep. I threw on some extra weight. Sat in the sauna 10 minutes longer than I thought I could. Like some of these things really do bleed into other areas of your life. Like, what do you know? Generalization.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it is a real thing.
Yeah.
And to hear, again, I'm just like basking in everything you're saying because, again, I just find so much reinforcement on like when people find their way.
Yes.
That's so cool to hear.
Yes. Thank you so much for your support again, always.
What would be your current favorite workout? For me, I found a lot of joy
What's yours?
in goblet squats.
These things?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. I
I
think
could take them or leave them.
for whatever reason I hated them at first. I hated squats.
Yeah.
And I started working with a trainer last year, and he was like, "Yeah, dude, I'm gonna have you squatting every day." And I was like, "No, you're not."
Yeah.
Every workout was at least like 2 reps of squats.
Yeah.
And then we got into goblet squats, and for whatever reason, I was like, I'm the king of goblet squats. Like no one could beat me at goblet. There's many other people that could beat me at goblet squats. But I actually found a lot of love in doing them, and it was one of the workouts that I actually like. When I saw it on my list, I was like, "Oh shit! I'm gonna knock out these other 5 things so I can get to the goblet squat because I know I'm gonna be in the zone right then and there."
Okay.
So what is that for you?
The deadlift.
Okay.
100%. For whatever reason,
You're
once
up
I
to like
accomplished
600
that,
pounds, right?
to be honest, I don't know where I'm at because I don't do the math. I get
Gym
in
math is
there,
real.
like I get in, there's no way I can add it up. I asked him, I'm like, what is this? He said, you can do it. And I said, okay,
There you go.
that's just what
That's all you
it
need
is.
to
That's
know.
all I need
So
to know.
you could be up in like the 2,000-3,000s.
Well, oddly enough, I was in the gym this morning and I was leg pressing. And the ones on the 100s section of the weights were like old. They were like going away. So I thought it said 60. It was 160. So I'm leg pressing 3 sets of 12, 160. Like, why is this so heavy?
Yeah.
But I'm doing it. and I'm killing it. And then I look and I was like, oh my goodness. This is 160, not 60 pounds. This is 160 pounds that I'm here leg pressing. I took a picture real quick. Yes. And I took a picture and I sent it right to my trainer. And I was like, you'll never believe this.
Yeah.
He was like, you are a secret beast.
Yeah.
I was like, I think I am. Because I don't really know that I'm capable of these things sometimes.
Yeah. And I think that's like the shaping piece that I do find enjoyable with the gym is like when you start off, you count every single weight. You count every single time. Like, oh, wow, I hit 40.
Yeah.
You just did 160.
Yeah.
So it's like those little things where you're like, oh, man, this was hard at like 30 pounds, or I couldn't really do anything at 25 pounds. And then you hit a certain extent, and it's like there's nothing else that could stand in the way of what just happened.
Totally.
Like I could crush the rest of the day just based off of this.
Totally. And like you said, that's what I tell myself. Oh, cool, you're under the desk. Great.
Yeah.
But you know what I did this morning?
Yeah. Internally, your body's like, I'm ready for this.
You know what I did this morning? So I got all day. We're cool.
Yeah.
No, I love that.
Yeah.
Again, kind of jumping around a little bit with teaching. I know we kind of talked about like you want to step into essentially teaching BCBAs.
Yeah.
Is there any specific areas that you want to teach with them, or just like how to become a BCBA, how to maintain status, or is there more to it?
What's
is there
your
a
perfect
specific
course?
Yeah.
Oh, my perfect course?
That was
My perfect course would definitely be cultural responsiveness.
okay.
In practice, in what we do every day, something tailored to that. Compassionate care, trauma-informed care, something that kind of, I would title the course Beyond the Task List. That's what I would title it.
And did you say your dissertation is similar?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm doing my dissertation. I'm teaching culturally responsive behaviors to other BCBAs in the field via video modeling, and I'm also adding a pyramidal training piece to it. So great, I taught you, but I need to make sure that you know how to teach your supervisees and your RBTs, because that's where this happens. That's where this change occurs, is directly with the clients. So that's what I'm aiming to do.
What would you say the largest deficit that you've seen is?
In like the field or the realm of cultural responsiveness, no one knows it. No one practices it. No one thinks first that, Johnny is crying under the desk because he's hungry.
Yeah.
Not because,
point.
right? You know what I mean? Like, what is the first thing that comes into your mind when a child isn't engaging in some sort of behavior, right? We know he's trying to communicate to us, but how come we're missing that piece where it's like, giving him that grace for a minute. Like, okay, what did your night look like?
Yeah,
maybe
like those setting events.
Yeah, those different setting events. And we're not doing that. And we're not taking a culturally responsive approach to behavior management or programming or anything, clinically at all.
Yeah. And I think it's tough too, because a lot of times in the more clinical based ABA, we kind of throw that out the window. A lot of like the reasoning why. When we jump into schools, I personally believe that it should be on top of the list.
Correct.
Is all the students that are coming in hungry,
Totally.
or all the students that didn't get a good night's sleep. They're factors that attribute to the behavior.
Yeah.
The behavior still happens. So we still do have to do our job, and we have to manage the behavior.
Yep.
But understanding why it's happening
Yes.
and mitigating, instead of kind of going off on a tangent and reinforcing negative language. Oh, he's always doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, he's always doing stuff like that because maybe food is hard
Yeah.
for him to come by at his house, or maybe he lives in a really noisy area, and it's just not good for a great night of sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of that stuff I think is so important for everyone to really kind of focus in and learn about. But
agree.
you're right. I don't think it gets any time in the sun for us to really
Because it's not
sit with it.
required.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a whole other conversation, and I would love to speak to somebody about it. But there's nothing in our coursework, in our task list, ethics code. Maybe there's a sentence
Yeah.
that says we should be, but what does that look like?
Right.
Right?
But should doesn't mean do.
To most, right? And the ethics code too, right? We have to realize it's kind of like the speed limit,
Yeah.
a recommendation almost,
Yeah.
right? So yes, I love the systems that are in place for those major ethical violations, right? You know, but again, when we're talking about culturally responsiveness, it's not really required to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and again, why is that? Because no one's able to teach it. That's what it really
Yeah.
comes down to. Is no one's really skilled in that area to be like, hey, this is a college course that you have to take, or an ethics, module that you have to take. The CEUs, right? I was very excited about that
Yes,
being
I was.
a thing because it was like, oh, great. Like we have something that says, there's this cultural component to learning and to our field. So, it's just not a requirement. So.
Do you think that there's an obstacle for teaching this because it is so broad, and a lot of the times it's unforeseen behavior or unforeseen setting events or things that just don't happen when we're with the student?
Yeah.
And that kind of throws up a roadblock for people?
Totally. And when we think about our jobs and we think about our science, everything is operationally defined. We just now gotten to the point where we operationally define culturally responsiveness, right? Years ago, I'm sure when we were back in undergrad, we were calling it cultural competence, right? Then that signifies mastery. Well, we can't. There's no way we can master someone else's culture because I could never even master my own. Every day I'm learning something new, right, about my culture, right? So then we transformed or transitioned to this term cultural humility,
Right.
where it's kind of like, oh, okay, this is a lifelong process. I understand that we cannot know everything there is to know about all these different cultures, but we can try,
Yeah.
right? And then
Or approach
approach it differently.
compassionately.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct. So
Just
I
be kind.
absolutely love that term too, right? But then there was also a deficit in that term because that just signified it or defined it as a lifelong process. Well, where's the doing? What do you do? So that's why I really love this term culturally responsiveness because what do we call behavior in our field? A response.
Yeah, there's a call
So
to
there's a
action there.
call to action there. There's something there's a gap that has been filled with defining that term. And I'm on a mission to close the gap in terms of teaching it to other people.
Yeah. And I think more clinicians have seen it in the field. They just don't really know how to quantify it or what to
100%.
call it. One example sticks out to me, and it's one that I've always kind of thought about every year since. About 2 or 3 years ago, I was working in a middle school. Learner gets to lunch, and he's eating with his hands.
Oh,
Immediately, the staff starts to, get on his case. No, you have to use your fork. You have to use your knife. You have to hold it this way.
Yep.
And turns out that's not his culture.
Yeah.
He eats with his hands, and
Totally.
that was what he was taught from age 0.
Yeah.
And it was wrong of us to essentially take his culture away and say, no, you have to conform to what we're doing.
Yep.
And 45 minutes later, kind of got him back on track, and eventually, just let all the staff in that scenario know, like, that's not our culture and that's not our place.
Yeah.
We can give him extra napkins to clean up his hands
Yep.
afterwards.
Yep.
That part's
We
easy
can teach
peasy.
that. Yeah.
But we can't jump into something that we know nothing about.
Correct.
And even if we do know about it, who's to say that's our job to fix?
Yeah.
Because there's nothing to fix.
Because there's nothing to fix.
Yeah.
And that's where that true deficit is. The deficit there is looking at that and saying, and not even thinking about that being a different cultural norm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's the issue with teaching this, is that it's just not second nature for most people. That's all.
When you're teaching this course, is there like a baseline behavior that you look at to see if their skill set really does grow, or you haven't gotten that far yet?
I would love to develop this whole course, but for my dissertation.
That's what I'm sorry. I
okay.
misspoke. Your
Okay.
dissertation.
Yes. So yes, I will be taking baseline just to see what they kind of know, to see if they can meet so baseline, really when you're taking baseline data, it's kind of like, oh, okay, do you have the qualifications or do you have an understanding of what it is you'll know throughout this entire study? The answer hopefully is no, because I got to teach it to you.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
that's essentially what I'll be doing. Like, hey, do you have a clue? If not, great, you can stay.
Is there like a situation or scenario that you volley to them?
There's going to be a scenario.
Okay.
A kind of a written scenario that's going to test their knowledge of the whole procedures of the study, which I don't have yet,
Okay.
but I'm getting there.
I won't,
Piece by piece.
I won't poke the bear anymore.
I'm getting there.
I was just very curious.
Yes,
Because
yes.
I do think this is a great field to start to push people into so they can grow their skill set.
Yeah.
And teaching people how to teach it, I think that's another deficit, is we don't teach it because we don't know how to teach it.
Yeah.
Right. I think we're very same as clinicians, and I think that's why we get along so very well. But at the same time, you know how hard it is to teach somebody to think like you.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
There are a
it's
lot
hard.
of things a BCBA has to know how to do, and soft skills is one of them.
Yes, yes.
And we always talk about how hard it is to teach soft skills.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
that is probably one of the hardest of the things to teach.
Totally.
Next to exactly what you're
Yeah.
saying, that cultural humility piece,
Yeah.
or so that's why I was so curious
Yeah.
about the baseline, because
Oh, you'll be the first to get it. Trust me. As soon as I defend, it'll be
Yeah.
first in your email.
Perfect. Jumping again, social media.
Oh yeah.
Tell us, and you might know better than I do,
Okay.
but because I don't remember where you were when we last kind of met and did our pod.
Yeah.
But I guess from whatever follower number you were there, from whatever content you were making then, how has like the growth changed, and how do you look at social media now?
If I had to guess, when I was here last, I was maybe around 4,000,
Okay.
5,000 followers. I've really been heavy on the page the last year and a half.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's where most of my growth came from. But even a day ago, I was over 300, 400 followers away. I posted one reel and it
That was
blew
it.
up, and I had no idea it was viral until I checked it again. And then I was like, oh my goodness, I'm 6 people away from 10,000. I was even trying to get ahead of the game. So I already had scheduled my 10K follower photo shoot for 2 weeks from now, because I was like, I'm 400 followers away. Like,
Yeah.
it's going to take me a few times, like a few weeks to kind of get there. So I have that photo shoot set for like February 1st.
Yeah.
And then I reached the goal, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is insane.
It's a good problem.
It's a good
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
It's definitely a good problem. So I was very, very excited about it. It was even more exciting that it caught me off guard,
Yeah.
because I was tracking it. And in fact, that was my 2025 goal,
Yeah.
was to end with 10K.
Yeah.
And like I said, I was like 300 something followers short of that. And I was like, you know what? It's fine. Like, I'll
Yeah.
just keep pushing. I'll keep posting.
You were still on the path for it.
Yep. I was still
Yeah.
on the path
I mean,
for it.
doing it in the first month of 2026
I know.
isn't
It's
so
still-
bad.
it's
You know
still
what I
kinda
mean?
crazy.
Like,
It's a
you
little
weren't
bit.
off by much.
Yeah.
It was not even like a whole month.
Yes, craziness, and it just, again, it really shows. I guess it's a testament to my discipline and to my consistency,
Yeah.
and to the love that I have for that page, and it really meant a lot to me, because first of all, have you ever seen 10,000 people in a room?
Yeah. No.
Like, you know what I mean? At
maybe.
a concert, right?
Yeah, maybe.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Right? So
a lot of eyeballs.
A lot of eyeballs. And I just keep thinking, I don't know if you guys are a fan of Logic, but
Yes.
he was absolutely one of my favorite artists, especially growing up back in the day. I went to his concert he had in Philly. It had to be outside, because that's how many people he would always have at his shows. And something that he says in his music all the time is 50,000, like 50,000. He's like, every time I do a show, there's 50,000 people, 50,000 eyeballs looking at me. That put into perspective so much numbers in terms of like followers, right? Because it's like, wow, 10,000 people is a lot of people. I mean, it's not 50K, but it's a lot of people.
Yeah.
You
That
know
are
what I mean?
interested in what
that
you're
are
doing.
interested in what
Yeah.
I'm doing. And I got these followers by being myself, right? I got these followers by posting what made me happy, by just being funny, being vulnerable. Like, I'm not trying to do something crazy,
Yeah.
right? You know, I'm just being me.
Yeah.
So to know 10,000 people are like, yeah, I like you. That's pretty cool, and it keeps me motivated.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, do you? The answer's probably no. But do you feel like you have to put the same amount of effort into your videos now as, a year and a half ago?
Brandon, I'm gonna be honest with you. I never put any effort into it. Okay, I'm gonna be honest with you. You know what I got going on in life.
record.
Yeah.
You know what I got going
Yeah.
on in life. I came in here and I asked Ty, hey, just shoot something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll put it together by 7 p.m. tonight.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to look perfect. It doesn't have to look pretty.
Yeah.
Right.
Content is content.
Content is
that what
content.
you're getting at?
Content is everything is content is
Yeah.
really what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Right. I literally just post random videos that I have in my camera roll that I don't even intend
Okay. Yeah.
for them to be content like. So I don't put any effort into it. People are
Good.
like, oh, are you on a schedule? No.
Yeah.
No. I wake up, oh, it's 8, I better post something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People gonna think something happened to me.
Yeah.
I just better post.
Yeah.
And you know,
Is it like a once a day thing?
sometimes it's once a day, depending on my capacity level.
Okay, that's fair.
Other times it's multiple times a day.
Okay.
Because I have a lot of drafts, so I just push stuff. Like today is an off day technically because not many people worked today.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I could put some fluff content out.
Yeah.
Right. But there's specific content that I like to post in the morning. There's specific content I like to post in the afternoon. Like stuff with my trainer. I'll typically post that later in the day. Just because I know that's when people are looking for it.
Yeah.
And it is an ABA page.
Yeah.
So I do have to, really stick to that main theme. But again, if I call it fluff content where I'm pushing something out.
Yeah.
And I'm pushing my my hobbies and life outside of being a BCBA because, again, I feel like that's important too.
Yeah. It's cool that there's like a method to the madness.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
But it's not a crazy method because I cannot be stressed out about it.
Yeah.
I'm looking at my phone now because this is the first time it's been face down in a really long time.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
For a good 40 minutes.
A good 40 minutes. So I appreciate the disconnect so much sometimes from that. But I'm not crazy. There's no schedule. There's no, I got to post this. It's whatever's in that camera roll.
Now, do you ever get pushback about your content or about kind of like how free it
I
is?
actually wanted to ask that because I know you actually had a situation. I want to say like
A year
I think
ago.
we were in Calaba when we were the two of us were together, and we were both like in shock when this happened. If you know what I'm getting at and alluding to.
Yes.
If you don't want to talk about it, it's
No, we can
completely
talk about it,
because
yeah.
I think like this is something that people are afraid of, and it stops them from being the real them.
Totally.
And obviously, I don't mean in like a harmful or an unethical space, but just like some BCBAs are like, I can't be the real me because they're afraid of being reported or just having something like that happen to them.
Well, first things first, I think I should start by saying that situation alone has boosted my confidence. It's sorted from there. I'm like, okay, bet.
Yeah.
Bet. And I got people really
So
watching
there is
me.
silver lining. I love
You're
that.
like,
They're-
okay, watch this.
Correct.
Yeah.
There's some still motivation there. There's some motivating operations there where it's like, oh, bet you're watching. Cool. My attention is clearly function is clearly attention. That's why I'm doing this, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, if you're watching that much to report me because of it was like 7 seconds of a voiceover that I was doing.
And to give just
7
a
seconds.
little bit of background, you were reported to the BACB
Yes.
due to a reel that you put out on Instagram.
Yes.
Okay.
And I was reported, I primarily think because of the caption.
Okay.
The reel itself was just a voiceover that wasn't harmful at all. I'm very cognizant about what I post on my page in case, my mom comes across it or her friends or, my kids one day. Like once you put something out there, it's out there.
Forever.
So I'm very careful about what it is that I do post. But yes, I was reported to the board and nothing really came to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't even know what that process looks like.
Me neither. I
So-
thought it was a scam.
Yeah.
I said, who
Yeah.
in the world? And this was when New Jersey first established their board. So
Yeah.
I wasn't even licensed in New Jersey yet because
Right.
they just established this whole thing.
Yeah.
Their first case had to be me.
My gosh.
It had to
I didn't
be
even
me.
think about that.
Had to be
Yeah.
me. Anyway, I was reported for cultural humility
How ironic.
is what I was reported for.
Wow.
In the report, the definitions were completely inaccurate, and
Yeah.
I was just like, okay, clearly, I upset you. We could clearly talk about this
Yeah.
as adults if you really wanted to. My DMs are always open, but I ended up blocking the individual because they just kept making, aggressive comments on my stuff, and I don't, I don't like that. I don't like that. So that's when I was, I guess, reported when I couldn't be contacted any further.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I believe you did kind of make like a video response.
I think I
not
did,
directly to
yeah.
her.
Yeah.
And if I remember correctly, that video itself had so many people that were just like, fuck that, you're amazing. They're like, yes, queen, you realized.
That's when I realized, I got people that don't
Yeah.
play. that don't play about me. And I was like, okay, this is cool. But being, again, vulnerable enough to share that moment, I think is what attracted some additional followers to me. Because like you said, I have a lot of mentees who are afraid of producing content because they are afraid of that.
Yeah.
But if you are living within your true self, your true values, and you're upholding the ethics code, you're not in violation of a thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? As long as you're protecting client confidentiality, you're not in violation of a thing. So that's really what I like to tell people. Like, don't be afraid. It boosted my confidence so much. And it made me realize that, again, I had so many people, real people, who are like, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
You got this. We're still going to support you no matter what comes of this. And nothing did really come of it, except I did write like a 4-page single-spaced rebuttal.
Love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, everybody's like, aren't you like on the board?
Yeah.
I was like, well, just let that slide. I won't mention that. I won't mention that. But I do, I did explain the case, and I explained my platform is, primarily targeted to Black female BCBAs. So that's the content that I'm pushing.
Right.
So clearly there was an issue on the other party side with, things that I was saying, but we got past it, never contacted the individual. I found it weird that they did provide me all of her contact information.
That is weird.
That is strange.
Address, phone number, first, last name.
They said just in case.
Yeah. But like I didn't reach out any further. And they
Which is
also
a little
received,
scary because if you
Oh,
weren't
yeah.
someone with like a
Morals.
good head on your shoulder or morals, you should not be getting that information.
if a few of those commenters got a hold of that information,
it would be a different story.
It'd be a different story.
It'd be a much different story.
But yeah, no, totally. I wish them well, and
Yeah.
I'm sad that we couldn't have a conversation about it.
Yeah.
Because that's the first thing we should do during ethical violation with anybody is
100%.
talk to the person about
Yes.
it.
That should be the first line of
First thing.
action.
Yes. And that's what I
Always.
mentioned in my rebuttal. Like, if they wanted to speak to me, they totally could have.
Right.
Yeah.
We could get into it, but there were a lot of things that the board had to been like, yeah, nobody's messing with this girl. Because, like, she's right.
Now, since that incident, has there been anybody else on a lower scale, obviously, who's just like, I don't agree with you?
Probably all the time.
Just haters.
Anytime I get a reel that goes over 500K views, there's half the viewers or half the commenters are like, this is insane. And it's usually individuals who hate ABA or had a bad experience with ABA, and they're trying to
Now,
convince everybody
especially
else.
with something like that, and that's kind of like where I was going with it, is managing content and being in the realm of like you're a BCBA, but you also make content and you're also very active on social media.
Yeah.
How do you navigate that and know which ones to respond to, which ones not to, which ones going to make like an actual good conversation, or which are just going to end up with them still kind of telling you to like kick rocks?
I guess it depends on how much time I have that day. I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Sometimes I got time. Sometimes I'm for it. But you guys know I'll always respond to every single comment on every one of my videos, because it takes so much effort to make a comment on somebody else's things that I always respond in some way. That way I could just acknowledge that I see a comment, right? But a lot of the negative comments I just plan to ignore, unless I got time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or unless you're coming for my work as a clinician, or you're coming for my kids, or you're coming for my character, I'll respond.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because those are 3 things I don't play about. But everything else, if you don't agree, like the one reel got, I think, almost 5 million views about the fire drill.
Yeah.
Me standing outside with the kids when we had our coats on. Oh, well, we shouldn't have your coat. It's a fire drill. Yeah, I understand. But,
Oh man.
It's also 33 degrees in New Jersey.
in New Jersey, there's snow on the ground.
Yeah, like,
I'm just, doing what admin allowed us to do.
yeah.
So, yeah.
There's also a coat rack on the way out.
Totally.
Yeah.
And honestly, it was easy. We grabbed them. You could just grab them on the way out.
That's what I'm saying. It's literally on the
Yeah.
way to the door.
Yeah.
Just
yeah.
makes sense.
It just makes that much sense. And quite honestly, like, I was just more concerned that people thought I was that kind of person. Like, if it were a real fire,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
are you crazy?
Like, hold on, guys. Hats, gloves,
Like-
shoes, socks.
Right.
None of that. I would have 3 kids on me, and we would just go to the nearest door. I would figure it out later. But, it's social media.
Yeah.
I put it out there, so I expect people to give it to me back. That's just what it is.
Yeah. Any
100%.
cool experiences you've had? Like influencer like experiences? As a
Oh,
result
like
of
famous
your
people?
famous people, or
Like
like
liking my
what
stuff?
are as a result of
Yeah.
your page, like have you had any been invited to any cool experiences?
Not yet. None that are not professional. So my
Okay.
page has come from a lot of clientele, a lot of presentations and speaking and appearances.
Yeah.
But nothing like you mean like an influencer like the New York Fashion Week?
Yeah.
Nothing
Yeah.
like that.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Nothing like that yet. Nothing like that yet. But no, totally. Like I just got a presentation invitation in my DMs last night.
Cool.
So little things like that definitely have come from the page. Totally.
And now famous people. Anyone anyone that you've found on your page or has found your page?
Yeah, so I don't know if it's I just get lucky when I'm posting certain things. And maybe they're just on their phone or whatever the case is. But a few times, a couple of my favorite artists have
Wow.
reposted me.
Wow.
That's pretty cool.
Black, Kevin Gates. You know, Kevin Gates reposted me a couple times. And Janine, she is an underground singer. She
Very cool.
always reposts me. She knows me by face because I always go to her shows.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, I know you.
I love that.
Yeah.
It gets you, in contact with people you never thought.
Totally,
Yeah.
totally. They have,
cross
again, no
paths
idea
with.
what I'm doing.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
idea what ABA is. But hey, maybe one day I'll be like a famous BCBA or like I'm working with famous kids or
Yeah.
something. I don't know. Like, you just never know.
Yeah.
Right.
And I don't think there should be limits to any of this, really. Like, there's so many different pathways that we can go in this field as BCBAs, RBTs, clinicians in general.
Yeah.
That, I mean, truthfully, if we wanted to, go work with any famous singers or
Totally.
football players,
Yeah,
like,
we could.
it's, doors always open.
Yeah, you just gotta plead, state your case.
Yeah.
Right? It's funny that you mentioned that because that was the reel that I posted earlier today. I posted a reel that mentioned the 10 sources of income that I had just by being a BCBA. So I think it's necessary that other people know and understand that there are different avenues that you can take in this field. It doesn't always have to be a clinic or a school or
Yeah.
a home. Like, there are so many different areas, and I just wish it weren't so hush hush.
Yeah.
Jumping
Again, viewers who watched our last pod know that you're very into spiritualism, and you have a couple tattoos. You kind of carry it with you. How has that held you up through your plate being so full and through the the process of getting your PhD?
Yeah, totally. I feel like, again, going back to the hobby thing, like, that's what I was putting my time and energy into for the longest. Like, I love collecting the rocks. I love rocks. I love minerals. I love the science behind what they're made of and where they're found. And, again, we talk about all the time how, there's ancient history that believes that some of these rocks do have spiritual healing powers. But I said, when I first got here, I was like, look, if I thought a rock was going to get me through this dissertation, somebody hit me upside my head with it, right? So I feel like it's a combination of different things. It was what I was focusing on at the time. It's definitely something that I still enjoy. I still, collect. I still chart the moon. I love stars.
Yeah.
I love looking at stars and kind of finding the constellations, every night. That's just who I am. I'm so in tune with the galaxy
Yeah.
and and the universe and such. So I feel like, again, that was just a stepping stone into oh, okay, I can have a hobby outside of work
Yeah.
and school, essentially.
Any interest in the lunar fair?
Yes and no.
Yes. I know it's a tad gimmicky,
It's
but
a tad a little too witchy for
Yeah.
me. I'm not gonna lie.
That's
I'm not
fair.
gonna lie to you.
That's
I have a line, a very solid line, where it's okay, this is my hobby. Rocks are pretty.
yeah.
This is crazy.
But I'm going to watch it from afar.
Yes,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
gonna be like, okay.
I'll watch the reels, but
Yes,
yeah.
but I don't know that I could go. But it's very funny that you say that because I would go for the shops and stuff.
Yeah.
Because they have moons on everything.
Yes.
Right?
As someone, I actually went this past summer just because I thought it kind of looked cool.
Yeah.
And I definitely got more of that where they're like
Yes.
people were walking around on stilts and
Yes.
costumes and it was the whole nine of it. But the shops were really
Shops
cool.
are really-
and
I
some
like
of the events
shopping.
were really cool. But everything else, I was like, there's so much eyeliner I'm going to
Yeah.
like
yeah.
I don't know what to do with all this.
Yes, there's a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us again today. So before we go, where can our listeners find you next? Any conferences, talks coming up?
Yeah, so oddly enough, I said I wasn't going to do any this year, so I got to focus on this dissertation. But I will be speaking at the Black Women in Behavior Analysis Appreciation Day conference. That is, I believe, February 20th.
It's coming up.
Yeah, coming up. I will also be speaking at the RBT conference in April.
Ooh.
That's all virtual. That's via Behavior Live. What's after April? May. Nothing in May. June is NJABA.
Yep.
July is WEBA. I'll be hopefully speaking there.
Cool.
I'll be submitting. I submit every year to speak there.
We
That's
keep
my
saying we're
favorite
going to go to that
conference.
one.
It is my
Yeah.
favorite conference. They did change locations this year, so I'm excited about
Where's it
that.
at?
It's in Chicago.
Okay.
So
Cool.
new city for me.
Cool.
I'm excited.
Goes along with that song. It's
Yeah.
perfect. Everybody's going to be posting that on a reel.
Yes. But yeah, I think as of right now, that's it.
It sounds pretty busy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
it.
Good busy.
Just a few things. Yeah. Just going to a few things.
And now on the day-to-day, where can our listeners find you?
Instagram at the Mystical Analyst. LinkedIn, my first and last name, Quintara Tucker. Where else? Now I'm on TikTok and YouTube, but I'm not really.
It's not your
Yeah.
thing.
It's not real. I'm not
Yeah.
really keeping up with that. But the Mystical Analyst on YouTube and TikTok, and my website www.qbconsulting111.com.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Well, thanks.
Well, thank you
Of
again.
course, thank you guys so much.
Check out thekarmacollection.com for stylish, ABA-inspired apparel that spreads the message of behavior science with every wear. Free shipping on orders over $120. thekarmacollection.com